Hello, this Mr. Coke video paying tribute to Monty Python was sponsored by Sean over on Patreon. If you want to throw your support and possibly suggest some video ideas of your own, guaranteeing that spot on the schedule, just visit my Patreon page, link is in the description. And now, on with the show. When one thinks of the best of British comedy, certainly the members of Monty Python come immediately to mind. The combined talents of John Cleese, Graham Chapman, Terry Jones, Michael Palin, Terry Gilliam, and Eric Idle resulted in some unforgettable sketch comedy, and some truly hilarious movies. People often think of their humor as surreal, but it went beyond that. Putting their Oxford and Cambridge educations to good use, plus aided by Gilliam's inventive animation, their comedy used wordplay, social commentary that played on society's norms, confrontational exchanges, parodies of British industrial films, religious satire, and historical spoofs. The number of their sketches that have entered the public lexicon is immense. Certainly the most famous is the Parrot sketch, which hilariously shows the desperation with Palin's shopkeeper trying to convince Cleese his pet bird is still alive. The Lumberjack song humorously plays with stereotypes and ideas of the axe-wielding male woodchopper. The Spanish Inquisition plays on historical events, with a trio of incompetent cardinals, and also poking fun at common hyperbolic phrases. The BBC managed to give Monty Python a surprising amount of freedom on Flying Circus, which is how we got a sketch like Marriage Guidance Counselor, showing a meek husband dealing with a flirty marriage counselor. Not all of the sketches went for multiple layers and wit. Sometimes they merely utilized silly humor, much to the annoyance of Graham Chapman's general character. One of my personal favorite absurd sketches is Albatross, mainly because it understands the word albatross is funny enough on its own. Frankly, if I went through every brilliant Monty Python sketch, I would be here all day. Their influence on sketch comedy is undeniable, and one can see how their unique brand of transitioning from skit to skit has influenced everything, from Saturday Night Live to Animaniacs. And now for something completely different. That was the name of Monty Python's first feature film, primarily made to introduce American audiences to their brand of humor. It's basically a series of reused sketches, and the humor is thankfully kept intact, and it's fun to see them blown up beyond simple television sets and without a laugh track. The transitions from sketch to sketch, whether it be through Terry Gilliam's animation or connecting the skits together, allows the film to flow nicely. And now for something completely different is essentially a best-of compilation, but it's a successful one. The real film breakthrough for the Pythons was Monty Python and the Holy Grail. For this one, they had to craft a central plot of King Arthur and his knights searching for the Holy Grail, but the connecting scenes allow for brilliant screenplay that is consistently funny and each line more quotable than the last. I think a large reason for the film's lasting appeal is how it uses our familiarity with Arthurian legend to create a humorous saga, and the Pythons playing each of the knights allows them to have their own quirks and side quests. Whether it's the absurd, like the Knights Who Say Ni, or political verbal commentary, like Dennis the Mudman questioning how Arthur was made king, or even breaking the fourth wall when the narrator is continually interrupted. I also want to give credit to Terry Jones and Terry Gilliam's direction, which managed to make the most of the Scottish valleys and castles with the meager budget the production had. They even managed to throw in an unforgettable and catchy musical number with the Knights of the Round Table song. For those who've never seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail, it's delightful seeing the gags for the first time, and they hold up remarkably on repeat viewings. They actually managed to make the opening credits, stylized like an Ingmar Bergman film, hilarious, even if one has never seen a Bergman film. It's absolutely deserving of its status as a comedy classic, but my favorite Monty Python film is actually their next one, The Life of Brian. While Holy Grail takes inspiration from the legends of King Arthur and his knights, Life of Brian pokes fun at biblical times, creating a film that lampoons both organized religion and cinematic epics like Ben-Hur. Impressively, it's Jesus who ends up unscathed, as the Pythons did not think he was funny and not worth poking fun at. It didn't stop certain groups from being offended, though. The brilliance of Life of Brian comes from the layers in the jokes, how Brian is developed. Brian is a genuinely sympathetic character who ends up catapulted into being considered the Messiah. But he's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy. Through this excellently constructed plot, the Pythons find ways to mock people's lack of individual thinking, the various political fringe groups that existed in Great Britain at the time, the simplicity of religious rules, Latin grammar classes, blind hatred of certain leaderships, and even Star Wars, among other things. Nobody is left unscathed by Monty Python. Capping off with the unforgettable, optimistic tune, Always Look on the Bright Side of Life, it amazes me how much they pack into Life of Brian. I think this is one of the sharpest and most scathing satires ever put to screen, and an incredible comedy landmark. If you're not easily offended, well, no, I think almost everyone will find something to be offended by in Life of Brian. After all, this was the film so funny it was banned in Norway. No, really, that's how they advertised it in Sweden. The final Monty Python movie arrived with The Meaning of Life, which returned to the sketch comedy format, albeit with a running theme about our place in the universe. While not all the sketches hit, we still find some gems. A classic is the Mr. Crusoe sketch, in which an overeater ends up disgusting everyone else in a fancy restaurant. The special effects were actually so realistic the extras got legitimately sick, which makes the sketch all the funnier. Other highlights include a musical number about preserving one's reproductive fluids, and an out there sequence where the audience is asked to find a fish, one of the most visually crazy scenes ever put into a Monty Python production. Terry Jones really takes full advantage of the bigger budget Universal Pictures gave him on the film, and it feels grander than any previous Python project. While not as consistently brilliant as their two previous films, there's still plenty to enjoy here. Even after the release of Meaning of Life and the unfortunate death of Graham Chapman, we still found plenty of new Monty Python being produced. The most notable is Spamalot, Eric Idle's Broadway musical based on Monty Python and the Holy Grail. The songs are perfectly in keeping with the Python tradition, and it works as a stage version and extension of the material in the film. Overall, Monty Python will remain hilarious for years to come. It's a credit to how funny each member was. It's hard to pick a favorite. Chapman, Cleese, Idle, Palin, Jones, and Gilliam all provided something unique and special to the sketches and the films, whether through their writing or the performances. Eric Idle's characters tended to have a cheekiness to them, while John Cleese often played frustrated personalities to a T. And Michael Palin was always great at playing innocent figures, and you could always count on Terry Jones to get a laugh out of wearing a dress. And what are you doing? Still listening to me ramble on? You know what? This video's over. Go off and watch a Monty Python sketch, or here's Monty Python, the Holy Grail. That's 90 minutes well spent on your part. Just cut to something else. Anything.